Picture a world where trust is the rarest currency, more elusive than gold. In the sprawling, gritty streets of Boston, where every corner hides secrets and every shadow whispers lies. Surviving isn't just about making it through the day. It's about navigating a labyrinth of deception. This is the story of two men whose lives are entwined by fate, yet torn apart by the very choices they've made. One wears a badge, a symbol of law and order, while the other wears the guise of loyalty to a ruthless criminal empire. Both men are on opposite sides of a deadly game, but their destinies are linked in ways they cannot yet fathom. Our story begins in the heart of a neighborhood that has seen better days. It's a place where the buildings are worn, the streets are rough, and the people who live there have developed a thick skin just to survive. Growing up in this environment, two boys made a series of choices that would shape their futures in ways neither could predict. The first boy, with his sharp mind and unwavering determination, decided early on that he would escape the clutches of poverty and crime. He worked hard, studied diligently, and eventually joined the police force, a beacon of hope in a place where hope was scarce. But life is rarely that simple. Beneath the surface of this seemingly upstanding cop lies a secret that threatens to destroy everything he's worked for. From a young age, he was taken under the wing of a powerful criminal figure, a man who saw potential in him and groomed him to be his eyes and ears within the police department. To the outside world, he's a rising star in law enforcement, respected by his peers and admired by his superiors. But in reality, he's a double agent, living a life of lies and deceit. The second boy grew up with a chip on his shoulder, hardened by the harsh realities of his environment. He knew the streets like the back of his hand and learned early on that the only way to survive was to be tougher, smarter, and more ruthless than everyone else. Yet, despite his rough exterior, he made a choice that surprised even himself. He decided to join the police. But this wasn't a decision made out of a desire to uphold the law. No, this was a tactical move. He became an undercover cop, taking on the dangerous task of infiltrating the very criminal world he had once been a part of. His life is a constant balancing act, as he juggles his true identity with the persona he must maintain to survive in the underworld. The tension in the city is palpable. The Boston police are locked in an intense battle against a criminal organization that has its roots deep in the community. This isn't just any gang. It's a highly organized, well-connected syndicate that has its tentacles wrapped around every corner of the city. Its leader is a man who commands fear and respect in equal measure, a mastermind who always seems to be one step ahead of the law. The police are desperate to bring this criminal empire down. They've poured resources into the effort, assigned their best detectives, and even called in favors from federal agencies. But despite their best efforts, the gang continues to thrive. Every raid, every sting operation, seems to yield little more than low-level operatives, never the big fish thereafter. It's as if the gang knows their every move before they make it, and, in a way, they do. This is where our clean-cut cop comes into play. To his colleagues, he's the epitome of what a police officer should be: brave, dedicated, and unwavering in his commitment to justice. He's the kind of guy who's always the first to volunteer for a dangerous assignment, the one who stays late to close a case, the one who seems destined for a glittering career. But what they don't know is that he's feeding information to the very criminals they're trying to catch. Every move the police make, every plan they hatch, ends up in the hands of the gang leader, thanks to his inside man. On the other side of this deadly game is the undercover cop, who's spent years building his cover within the gang. His mission is to gather enough evidence to bring the organization down from the inside, but it's not as straightforward as it sounds. The deeper he goes, the more entangled he becomes in the gang's operations. He's not just playing a role, he's living it, and sometimes the line between who he is and who he's pretending to be starts to blur. He's made friends within the gang, people who trust him, who rely on him. He knows their families, their hopes, their fears, and this makes his mission all the more complicated. How do you betray people who have come to see you as one of their own? Living a double life is like balancing on a knife's edge. One misstep and everything comes crashing down. For the undercover cop, every day is a struggle to maintain his cover. He's managed to climb the ranks within the gang, earning the trust of its leader, a man who trusts almost no one. But this trust is a heavy burden. The more the gang leader confides in him, the more he's drawn into the inner workings of the organization. He's privy to information that could make or break the gang, but acting on that information is a risk he's not always willing to take. The pressure of living this double life is immense. He's constantly on alert, always watching his back, always aware that one slip-up could cost him his life. The stress is taking a toll on him, both physically and mentally. He barely sleeps, and when he does, he's plagued by nightmares of being discovered. His personal life is almost non-existent. He's cut off from friends and family, the people who care about him, because he can't risk anyone finding out what he's really doing. The isolation is crippling, but it's the price he has to pay to stay alive. The tension in the city is palpable. The Boston police are locked in an intense battle against a criminal organization that has its roots deep in the community. This isn't just any gang. It's a highly organized, well-connected syndicate that has its tentacles wrapped around every corner of the city. Its leader is a man who commands fear and respect in equal measure, a mastermind who always seems to be one step ahead of the law. He's always been able to juggle his dual identities, but recently he started to slip. The stress is getting to him, and he's making mistakes, small ones at first, but they're starting to add up. He's always looking over his shoulder, paranoid that his colleagues are onto him, or that the gang will discover his true allegiance. The pressure is unbearable, and he's starting to crack. He knows that if either side finds out the truth, he's a dead man. As the tension in the city reaches a boiling point, both sides are gearing up for a final showdown. The police are more determined than ever to take down the gang, and they're pulling out all the stops. They've increased their surveillance, brought in new officers, and launched a series of coordinated raids in an effort to destabilize the organization. But no matter what they do, the gang always seems to be one step ahead. It's as if they have a crystal ball, able to predict the police's every move. The cop who's working for the gang is also living a double life, but his situation is different. On the outside, he appears to have it all, a promising career, the respect of his peers, and the admiration of his superiors. But underneath this polished exterior lies a man who's constantly battling with his conscience. He's torn between his loyalty to the gang that raised him and his duties as a police officer. Every day he has to make choices that pull him further into the criminal world, and with each decision, he feels the walls closing in on him. The gang, meanwhile, is feeling the heat. They know there's a mole in their ranks, someone who's feeding information back to the cops. The leader is growing increasingly paranoid, and he's tightening his grip on the organization. Trust is in short supply, and the atmosphere within the gang is tense. Everyone is a suspect, and the leader has made it clear that he will not tolerate betrayal. He's ordered his most trusted men to root out the rat, and they're not afraid to use brutal methods to get the job done. For the undercover cop, the situation is becoming increasingly dangerous. He's managed to avoid suspicion so far, but he knows that his time is running out. The gang is on high alert, and they're watching everyone closely. He's gathered enough evidence to bring the gang down, but doing so means revealing his true identity. It's a risk he's not sure he's ready to take. The longer he stays undercover, the more he's drawn into the gang's world, and he's starting to question whether he can ever truly escape it. The cop working for the gang is also feeling the pressure. He's been able to stay ahead of the police and keep the gang leader informed, but the cracks are starting to show. He's making mistakes, and he knows that it's only a matter of time before someone figures out what he's been doing. He's trapped in a web of lies, and there's no way out. If the gang finds out that he's been feeding information to the police, he's as good as dead. But if the police find out that he's been working for the gang, his career, and possibly his life, will be over. As the story reaches its climax, both men are pushed to their breaking points. The undercover cop is faced with a decision that could change everything. He's got the information he needs to bring the gang down, but doing so will mean betraying the people he's come to care about. He's spent so much time living this double life that he's not sure who he is anymore. The line between right and wrong has become blurred, and he's struggling to remember why he started this mission in the first place. The final showdown is inevitable. The police launch a massive raid on the gang's headquarters, a coordinated effort involving hundreds of officers. The tension is palpable as they prepare to storm the building, knowing that this could be their last chance to take down the gang once and for all. The undercover cop is inside, playing his role to perfection, but his heart is racing. He knows that if the police find out he's been working for them, he'll be a hero. But if the gang finds out, he'll be dead before he hits the ground. The cop working for the gang is also at a crossroads. He's been able to keep his secret hidden for so long, but the pressure is becoming too much. He knows that his time is running out, and he's starting to question whether it's all been worth it. He sacrificed so much, his integrity, his honor, his peace of mind, and for what? To protect a criminal organization that would kill him without a second thought if they found out the truth? He's living in fear, constantly looking over his shoulder, and he's starting to realize that no amount of money or power is worth the price he's paying. The cop working for the gang is also caught in the crossfire. He's trying to protect the gang leader, but he's also trying to keep himself alive. He's torn between his duty to the police and his loyalty to the gang, and he's not sure which side he's on anymore. The pressure is unbearable, and he knows that one wrong move could mean the end. The cop working for the gang is also in the building, feeding information to the gang leader, who's planning a last-ditch escape. He's torn between his loyalty to the gang and his duty as a police officer. He's come so far, sacrificed so much, but now he's faced with a choice that could cost him everything. He knows that if he helps the gang escape, he'll be betraying his colleagues, the people who have trusted him with their lives. But if he doesn't, he'll be betraying the gang leader who has been like a father to him. The raid begins and all hell breaks loose. The police storm the building, guns blazing as they fight their way through the gang's defenses. It's chaos, bullets flying, people screaming, the air thick with smoke and fear. The undercover cop is in the middle of it all, trying to stay alive while also trying to keep his cover intact. He's caught between two worlds, and he knows that this could be the moment that defines the rest of his life. As the police close in, both men are faced with a choice. The undercover cop knows that he has to act fast if he wants to survive. He's got the evidence he needs to take down the gang, but he has to get out of the building alive first. The cop working for the gang knows that he has to make a decision. Does he stay loyal to the gang leader who has protected him for so long, or does he finally do the right thing and help the police bring him down? The raid ends in a bloodbath, with many of the gang members either dead or in custody. The gang leader is arrested, and the organization is effectively dismantled. The undercover cop survives, but he's left with the scars of what he's been through. He's hailed as a hero by the police, but inside he's conflicted. He's done his duty, but at what cost? He's lost friends, betrayed people who trusted him, and he's not sure if he'll ever be able to live with the choices he's made. The cop who worked for the gang is also left to pick up the pieces of his life. He's been exposed as a mole, and his career is effectively over. He's facing charges for his involvement with the gang, and he knows that he's going to have to pay for what he's done. But more than that, he's lost the respect of his colleagues, the people who once looked up to him. He's a broken man, haunted by the choices he's made and the lives he's ruined. In the end, both men are left to reflect on the choices that brought them to this point. They've lived their lives on the edge, constantly walking the fine line between right and wrong. They've sacrificed everything: friends, family, their own sense of self, in pursuit of their goals. But now, as they stand on the other side of it all, they're left to wonder if it was all worth it. Was the price they paid too high? Can they ever truly escape the shadows of their past? The answers aren't clear, and maybe they never will be. But one thing is certain: their lives will never be the same again.